Good evening and welcome to the February 11th, 2021 City of Roseville Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission is meeting via video conference to adhere to Governor Newsom's stay-at-home order. Pursuant to paragraph 3 of Executive Order N-29-20, executed by the Governor of California on March 17, 2020, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus known as COVID-19, the Planning Commission meeting will allow members of the public to participate and address the Planning Commission during the open session of the meeting. There are two ways to accomplish this. Public comment may be submitted by telephone during the meeting and prior to the close of public comment on an agenda item by calling 916-774-5353. If you call, you may be placed on hold until the attendant can answer. The broadcast is delayed by up to 30 seconds when watching at home. When your call is transferred, you will have 3 minutes for public comments on items not on the agenda and 5 minutes in which to speak to a regular agenda item. Your time will be monitored and you will be informed when you have 1 minute left to conclude your comments. If you're listening to the meeting while calling in, please turn down the volume on the meeting in order to avoid interference. When calling, please do not use the speakerphone option as it may create difficulty for the Planning Commission to hear your comments. Public comment will also be accepted by email at publiccomment@roseville.ca.us. Comments received by email will be summarized by general topic and will be made part of the meeting record. I will now call the meeting to order. Lupe, may we please have a roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Caparuso?
Here.
Commissioner Krafka?
Here.
Commissioner La Brea?
Here.
Commissioner Martin?
Here.
Commissioner Pryor?
Here.
Vice Chair Jensen?
Here.
And Chair Beshears.
Here. And now, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag
of the United States of America and to the
republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lupe, please begin staff introductions.
Good evening, Commissioners. Lupe Nelson, Recording Secretary.
Good evening, Commissioners. Michelle Scheidenberger, Assistant City Attorney.
Good evening, Chair Beshears and Commissioners. Greg Bitter, Planning Manager.
Good evening, Chair Beshears, Commissioners. This is Dennis Dawson.
Oh.
I think that's everyone. A bit of an echo there from Derek. Now is the time on the agenda for public comments. Public comments is a time for anyone who would like to address the Commission on an item not on tonight's agenda. Public comment may be given via email at publiccomment@roseville.ca.us or by phone by calling 916-774-5353. When addressing the Commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Craig, is there anyone who would like to address the Commission on any item not on tonight's agenda? And we'll give the standard 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, we have no emails at this time, so I'll wait to hear from Anna, who's manning the phone tonight, for a few more seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, Chair Beshears, it looks like there'll be no public comment for items not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Hearing none, I will now close the public comment period. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of routine items that may be approved under one motion as recommended in the staff report. However, each item may be considered separately upon a request by the audience, the Planning Commission, or staff. To request that a consent item be considered separately, the public may send an email to publiccomment@roseville.ca.us or call us at 916-774-5353. Tonight's consent calendar consists of 2 items. Item 5.1, minutes from the December 10th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, and item 5.2, 123 Alta Avenue Rear Edition, file number PL 20-0229. Craig, is there anyone from the public who would like to pull an item for the consent calendar for discussion?
We have no emails, and I will give it another 30 seconds to hear if we have a phone call.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like there's no public comment or request to pull an item from the consent calendar tonight, Chair Beshears.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Would any of my fellow commissioners like to pull an item from the consent calendar tonight for discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as listed?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Commissioner Caparuso has made the motion and Commissioner Martin has seconded the motion. Loopy, roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Krafka,
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor,
Yes.
Commissioner La Brea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Caparuso,
Yes.
and Chair Beshears.
Yes, the motion is approved and there is a 10-day appeal period for item 5.2. Next on the agenda is requests and presentations. And before we begin, I'd like to review the meeting procedures. First, we will hear staff presentations. Then I will take questions from the commission. I will then open the public hearing. The applicant will have an opportunity to make the presentation. I will then open public comment and the public will have an opportunity to speak. I will then close public comment. The applicant will be given an opportunity to provide a rebuttal, and then I will close the public hearing. The commission may ask questions of staff at that time. And then finally, the commission will consider this item and make a decision based on the information provided in the report from staff and the testimony presented during tonight's hearing. And as a reminder, public comment may be given via email at publiccomment@roseville.ca.us or by calling 916-774-5353. Again, if you call, you may be placed on hold until staff can answer. When addressing the commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. First on the agenda, item 6.1 is a request to approve a major project permit stage 2 for 1119 Galleria Boulevard. For the record, file number PL20-0152. Charity, may we please have your presentation?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Charity Gold, Associate Planner, here this evening to present the Amy's Drive-Through project. So the project is located at 1119 Galleria Boulevard. The site is part of the Galleria Mall project area, which is located on parcel 35 within the North Central Roseville specific plan. The Galleria Mall major project permit was approved in 1995, and the proposed project requests a major project permit stage 2 for architectural review of the new Amy's drive-through restaurant. The restaurant will include both interior and exterior seating, as well as a drive-through. The project will use the existing access from Galleria Circle, which is located within the mall complex. The site will be developed with 57 parking spaces, which exceeds the city's requirement by 7 spaces. The building will be centrally located with a drive-through that queues to follow the southern and eastern property boundaries. The southern portion of the drive-through lane will be covered. The applicant has provided traffic information from other existing Amy's locations indicating that the maximum amount of queuing vehicles is typically 18. So as illustrated on this image with the blue rectangles, the proposed drive-through lane will accommodate 21 queuing vehicles and is expected to provide sufficient queuing within the project's boundaries. Additionally, the site will be landscaped consistent with city requirements and a parking lot shading will be provided. The architecture consists of a variety of colors and materials and variation in wall planes, roof lines, and building forms that are consistent with the overall architectural style and theme of the project. The architectural design incorporates natural building materials and colors, cedar board and batten facade, and a green vegetated roof. The building facade will be painted gray and sage with accents of blue and yellow. The western elevation, which faces the Galleria Mall, includes a mural that reads "Runs on Love." The architectural treatments will be applied to all sides of the building, and the vegetated roof will be visible on both the eastern and western sides of the building. The proposed architecture is consistent with the specific plan requirements, as well as the city's design guidelines. I'd just like to mention here that prior to the meeting, staff did present a memorandum with a revised landscape exhibit to the Planning Commission. The revision shows the inclusion of the green roof, which was inadvertently excluded from the previous Exhibit C. As presented and as discussed in the staff report, the project is consistent with the general plan, the North Central Roseville specific plan, and the city's design guidelines, and the project will not be detrimental to public health and safety or welfare. Based on the analysis in the staff report, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the required findings and approve the requested entitlement, including the revised Exhibit C. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Charity. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff at this time? It's been a few meetings. By way of roll call, I will ask if there are any questions. Commissioner Caparus, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Commissioner Krafka, any questions at this time?
No questions.
Commissioner LeBray, any questions right now?
No questions.
Commissioner Martin, any questions?
No questions.
And Commissioner Pryor, any questions?
Thanks for your presentation, Charity, and no questions at this time.
Okay. And Vice Chair Jensen, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing. I'd like to invite the representative for this item to address the commission.
Chair Bashirs, I have the representative for the applicant, Joe Junius, on the phone. Joe, you can address the commission.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, they're all nodding yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's weird. I see you on the screen. But anyways, good evening, commissioners. Really nice to meet you all. As Charity said, you know, I'm representing the architect for Amy's drive-through. We are excited to be coming into Roseville and are looking forward to creating another good food location for the surrounding area. I heard there were no comments, so I'm not sure if you need me to say anything else besides thank you for hearing us, and if there's any public things that I can stay on the line.
Thank you very much, Mr. Junius. We appreciate that, and I'll ask now if my fellow commissioners have any questions for the applicant for you. Commissioner Krafka, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Martin, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Pryor, any questions?
I have a quick question. Some of the planting layouts, they show a water tower on the site. I don't know if that's signage or if that's actually in the plan. I couldn't see it in the plan. Or is it just rendered there for visual effect or from another project, perhaps?
Correct. That is at the Roanoke Park location of the Amy's drive-through. We do not have a water tower at this location.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner LeBray, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Caparuso, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
And Vice Chair Jensen, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions. I will now open public comments. Public comment may be given via email at publiccomment@roseville.ca.us or by calling 774-5353. As a reminder, you will have 5 minutes to address the commission on this item. And Greg, is there anyone from the public who would like to address the commission on this item?
We have no emails for this item, Chair Bashirs, and we'll wait about 35 seconds to see if there's any phone calls for this particular item. Chair Bashirs, that's been about 40 seconds and no phone calls for Amy's at this point.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I will now close public comment. And I will ask, since there were no public comments, nothing for the applicant to address, I'll ask my fellow commissioners if they have any last items for discussion. Okay, hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry, Michelle, you had something?
Close the public hearing.
Yes. Hearing nothing, I will now close public hearing. Thank you, Michelle. And ask if anyone would like to make a motion. I believe Commissioner Martin has made a motion. Would anyone like to second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Martin has made a motion and Commissioner Pryor has seconded the motion.
And Chairperson, just I didn't hear the motion because I was too busy.
Oh, let's go.
I'll restate the motion. I just we recommend that we my motion is to adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the major project permit stage 2, subject to the 73 conditions of approval.
And with revised
file number PL 20-0152.
And with revised Exhibit C.
Yes, correct, with the revised Exhibit C.
Okay, thank you.
And can we have that second again?
I second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Martin has made the motion and Commissioner Pryor has seconded the motion. Lupe, a roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Caparuso.
Yes.
Vice Chair Jensen.
Yes.
Commissioner La Brea.
Yes.
Commissioner Krafka.
Yes.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor.
Yes.
And Chair Bashirs.
Yes. The motion is approved and there is a 10-day appeal period for this item. Item 6.2 is a request to approve a general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, rezone, development agreement amendment, conditional use permit, and a design review permit for 1875 Pleasant Grove Boulevard. For the record, file number PL 20-0142. Kenny, may we please have your presentation?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kenny Shallow, Associate Planner. I'm here tonight to present the W20 Coffee Shack project. So the project site is located in the West Roseville specific plan area at the southeastern corner of Pleasant Grove Boulevard and Upland Drive. The site is a triangular shaped parcel that is approximately 0.6 acres, and it's currently vacant but has landscaping and sidewalks along both street frontages. The parcel is zoned single-family residential and has a land use designation of low-density residential, but the specific plan doesn't have any units allocated to this parcel, as it was anticipated to act as sort of a gateway into the plan area. The surrounding uses include a vacant high-density residential parcel to the south, and then across both roadways are existing single-family homes to the north and west. And then a small portion of the southeastern corner of the site is also bounded by the vacant community commercial parcel that's on the corner of Fitiment and Pleasant Grove. So the proposed project is a 910 square foot drive-through coffee shop on the site. However, the exact coffee shop user is unknown at this time. The project entitlements include a general plan and specific plan amendment to change the land use designation from low-density residential to community commercial, a rezone to change the zoning designation to community commercial, with the special area overlay, a conditional use permit to allow a drive-through use contiguous to a residential zone parcel, a design review permit to review the site and building design, and lastly, an amendment to the West Park Development Agreement to reflect the proposed land use change. So the project will amend the zoning and land use designation of the site to community commercial to allow the proposed use. As it relates to land use compatibility, the CC land use is considered to be conditionally compatible with the surrounding HDR and LDR land uses. Based on the size of the parcel and proximity to residential uses, a special area overlay will be added to the proposed zone to modify permitted use types in order to prohibit potentially incompatible uses, such as auto repair, liquor stores, and smoke shops. With adoption of the special area overlay, staff finds the proposed CC land use and zoning would be appropriate for the property and compatible with the neighborhood. The proposed coffee shop building will be situated away from the roadways to help maximize the drive-through queue. The building will have a single drive-through lane and a separate walk-up order window. No indoor seating will be provided, but there will be a covered outdoor seating area on the west side of the building. The drive-through lane will be screened with a low masonry wall, and a 6-foot-tall masonry wall will be constructed along the southern property line to reduce potential noise impacts and provide screening of the project from the adjacent HDR parcel. The vehicle access and circulation was designed based on recommendations made in a traffic study prepared by Fair and Piers. Access to the site will be provided by a new 40-foot wide driveway on Pleasant Grove Boulevard that will allow for right-in, right-out turning movements with 2 inbound lanes and 1 outbound lane. A new right turn deceleration lane will be provided eastbound on Pleasant Grove for vehicles turning into the site. The drive-through lane provides approximately 415 feet of stacking distance, which would accommodate about 20 vehicles. And then with the space in the driveway throat depth and the decel turning lane, the overall total queuing capacity for the project would be around 28 vehicles without impacting any of the through lane traffic on Pleasant Grove. The project will provide 13 parking spaces, which exceeds the zoning ordinance parking requirement by 4 spaces. The spaces are located in easily accessible areas that would not be impeded by the path of travel. Also, the project complies with emergency circulation and refuse access requirements. So for purposes of the traffic study and to determine an appropriate drive-through length, 2 existing Dutch Brothers locations in the city were observed as a worst-case scenario. These are the Dutch Brothers at 715 Sunrise Avenue and 1225 Baseline Road. City engineering staff also looked at the Starbucks kiosk at 1241 Pleasant Grove. This chart here includes the existing designed queue length for each location, the data-driven queue, meaning data that was actually collected, and then the subjective analysis queue, which is based on what the city has seen to occur. The Sunrise Dutch Brothers is designed with 475 feet of stacking distance, and the traffic study data found the max queue here was 260 feet or 13 vehicles, but the city has seen it with queues of 24 vehicles, which can be adequately accommodated by the design queue length. The Baseline Dutch Brothers is designed with just 180 feet of stacking, but the data found it to have a max queue of 420 feet or 21 vehicles. During its busiest times, the city has seen this location have about 600 feet of stacking queues, which amounts to 30 vehicles. And then similar to the Baseline Dutch Brothers, the Starbucks is designed with 180 feet of stacking, and the city has seen it with max queues of 420 feet or 21 vehicles. So overall, during the busiest times, maximum queues are generally between 21 to 30 vehicles, but these are observed less than 1% of the time, and they last for about a 5 to 10 minute period. And for comparison, the proposed project will provide 415 feet of stacking, or about 20 vehicles. And as mentioned, with the space in the driveway and U-turn lane, the project can accommodate about 28 vehicles. So based on the data from the other locations, staff is confident the project will be able to handle maximum queues and will probably function more like the Sunrise Dutch Brothers and Starbucks as opposed to the one on Baseline. Since the exact coffee shop user is unknown at this time, the proposed operational characteristics and site design are based on recommendations of the technical studies prepared for the project, which include a noise assessment. The noise assessment concluded that noise from drive-through operations, such as the menu speaker board and vehicle idling, could potentially exceed the nighttime hourly average noise level standards for the HDR site at the southern property line if the drive-through hours of operation extend into nighttime hours, which are considered between 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So to comply with the noise ordinance, the noise assessment recommends either constructing a 10-foot wall along the southern property line or limiting the drive-through hours to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. In this case, the applicant is proposing to limit the hours of operation. The hours and any external amplified sound are regulated by the conditions of approval, which will ensure the project is consistent with the general plan and noise ordinance. The CUP includes a condition requiring any modifications to the operations be approved with a CUP modification, which will ensure any future user is compatible with and will not adversely affect surrounding uses. The applicant has included conceptual building elevations, but since there isn't an identified end user, this design is more of a placeholder, and a condition has been added to the design review permit requiring approval of a subsequent design review permit modification before building permit submittal to revisit the building architecture. This condition also includes a review of the screen wall design along the drive-through lane to ensure it's constructed of materials consistent with the building. For now, the proposed building is rectangular in shape and is designed with modern elements such as flat roof parapets that vary in height, with a maximum overall height of about 21 feet. The building materials consist of cement plaster painted in a muted green and warm tan color with cultured stone veneer along the base of the building. The property has existing 25-foot wide landscape corridors along both roadways. The majority of the existing landscaping will remain in place, but some trees will be removed to accommodate the new driveway and the drive-through lane. The project will add new landscaping consisting of a mix of trees, shrubs, and ground cover, and the trees in the parking lot will achieve the city's 50% minimum shading requirement. The project includes a minimum 5-foot wide landscape planter along the southern property line that will consist of southern live oak and desert willow trees to provide further screening of the drive-through lane from the HDR site. Staff finds the landscape plan meets the intent of the community design guidelines and the West Roseville specific plan, and is also consistent with the city's water efficient landscape ordinance. The project includes the 9th Amendment of the West Park Development Agreement to reflect the proposed land use change. Items not addressed in this amendment are subject to the terms of the original DAs and prior amendments. Staff finds the DA amendment is consistent with the general plan, West Roseville specific plan, and the zoning ordinance. Consistent with CEQA, an initial study leading to a mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the project. Mitigation measures were incorporated to reduce impacts to biological resources, noise, and tribal cultural resources. The document was circulated for a 20-day public review period that ended on February 4th, 2021. Staff received 2 public comment letters during this review period, which were included and discussed in the staff report and in a memorandum to the Planning Commission that was provided to you prior to tonight's hearing. Regarding public outreach, early notification of the project was provided to the Arcona board, and information on the project was also posted on the city's Projects of Interest website. On January 12th of this year, the applicant shared the project at the West Park and Fittement Farms Joint Neighborhood Association virtual meeting, which had about 30 people in attendance. Notice of tonight's hearing was sent to a 300-foot radius, interested persons, Arcona, and published in the Press Tribune. In addition to the 2 letters mentioned on the previous slide, staff received 1 comment letter in opposition of the project and 4 in support of the project. These comments were included with the staff report and staff's memorandum. So in conclusion, staff finds the proposed land use change is consistent with citywide policy. With the special area overlay, the change in zoning is compatible with the surrounding area. The conditional use permit will ensure the proposed drive-through use will not adversely affect or be material detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in the area. And the project is consistent with the goals, policies, and standards of the zoning ordinance, community design guidelines, and the West Roseville specific plan. At this time, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigated monitoring and reporting program, recommend City Council approve the general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, rezone, and development agreement amendment, and adopt the required findings of fact and approve the conditional use permit and design review permit subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Kenny, for your presentation. I will now ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions for staff at this time. Commissioner LaBrea, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Pryor, any questions?
Thank you, Kenny, for your presentation, and no questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Caparuso, any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Kenny, for your presentation. I just had first, there's a few things about the project that I am really appreciative of, one being the deceleration lane and some of the other thought that went into queuing. But I had a sort of a general question, and Greg, it might be more suited for you, and that's on the parking. I know that parking for us is always always a topic of discussion, and the parking for this sort of use, I really like that this use has outdoor seating, which some of these other kiosks do not include. So it's not necessarily for this project, but for these other projects where there is no outdoor seating, there's really no on-site use other than drive-through. Is there been discussion about kind of establishing a separate ordinance for parking standards for that type of a kiosk, drive-through kiosk, where it doesn't require so many parking spaces, and which would allow for additional room for queuing and stacking? And
well, one thing we did, you all took action on this last year, the commission and then the council adopted it, is originally our drive-through parking standard was one space per 50 square feet for any drive-through in the city. And we're seeing parking, a vast majority of fast food drive-through uses. And this goes for coffee kiosks or, any drive-through restaurant, like the 80s right. that you just approved, was 1 per 50. And we reduced that requirement to 1 per 100 square feet, primarily because we were seeing the underutilization of parking lots around fast food. And in addition, to provide exactly this, more stacking distance for cars on a site. So we've kind of cut the parking requirement in half for drive-throughs in order to provide more stacking. I think specific to coffee kiosks, we haven't really talked about a separate individual ordinance or parking requirement just for drive-through coffee kiosks without any sort of indoor food service, primarily because they vary so much. It's this anomaly with the ultimate tenant that ends up on the site. Right. And I think we've Dutch Brothers gets mentioned a lot. We use Dutch Brothers because they are the I hate to say worst case scenario, but they're the most successful case scenario of these facilities. And so they generate a lot of queuing and a lot of interest. Starbucks to a certain degree on their sites, although, probably a little less than the crazy peak hours that Dutch Brothers has. But then also there's other drive-through coffee kiosks, other brands that we don't see the same level of queuing and activity. And so it's hard to have one standard for everybody when it's really a brand by brand, case by case situation. That's why we've been requiring individual for almost every coffee kiosk we've done for the last 4 or 5 years. And Mark Stout, I know, is in the meeting. He can attest to this. We for such a small user, we make everybody do a traffic study that looks at trip generations from other locations, so that we can kind of get a handle on the brand by brand individuality of these users. Yeah, no, and I appreciate. I mean, you say worst case scenario, and it was called out that way in the staff report. So I do appreciate that. I think I have one more question for Mark, and that's really just around so I toured the site with the applicant, and one of my questions, Mark, was around the U-turn.
And the apparently there's going to be at some point in the future a signal at Upland. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The traffic study looked at the ability to do to be able to perform a U-turn, at least in the short term until a traffic signal is warranted. There is enough pavement there, and traffic volumes would allow a U-turn at that location to occur, in the short term. But there is money in the city CIP to fund a signal there in the future when warranted. Once Upland is connected and we see a little more development out there, then the city would put a traffic signal at that location.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes.
That's all I have, Chair Bashirs.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Krafka, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a couple. So I understand that when the project, the site plan and the renderings that we saw tonight are kind of a placeholder for a future user of this site. But I guess I first want to start by questioning, by rezoning this community commercial, this doesn't have to be a coffee shop, right? I mean, if we rezone this community commercial, does that open it up to any type of community commercial use, or is this being limited to just a coffee user?
Well, Kenny's on mute, so I'll go ahead and jump in. It is not being limited to just a coffee user, and there is a part of that, part of the action you're taking on the recommendation. There is an overlay zone. We're not just rezoning this to community commercial. We're rezoning this to community commercial with a special area overlay zone in order to eliminate potential commercial uses that aren't really compatible with neighborhoods. I think we modeled it on the same allowable uses that the Village Center has, although the Village Center doesn't allow drive-through fast food facilities. I think that's the one, and I hope Kenny or Derek would jump in if I'm wrong. But I think that's that. Other than drive-through users, I think this overlay zone mirrors the allowable uses for the Village Center.
Okay, so if one of those, and the reason I'm just being a little detailed on this one is it's a tight site, and it's one of these sites that could work well, and it's a site that if somebody comes in and doesn't program the site well, it could not go so well. So when the design review comes in back to the city, does that include a site plan review also, or is the only thing that's reviewed in the design review just the building architectural?
Oh, no, it's everything. Site plan, again, site plan, parking layout, landscaping, it's everything. Everything you're reviewing tonight except for the land use entitlements.
Okay. And because it's a special overlay, would there be an ability, again, it's a community commercial, and so sometimes we've had problems in the past where if it's principally zoned, there's limitations on what the Planning Commission can specially condition a project to do. So with the special zoning, if it's a use that we may not be thinking about tonight that comes in, that, because if a user comes in as something that we're not really thinking about, would the special zoning allow the Planning Commission to put some conditional use type conditions on the project, some more operational type conditions that we're not always allowed to do? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but that would that requirement would only apply if there was a conditional use permit requirement. And I'm trying to pull that overlay. I don't know that we have a lot of requirements for conditional use permits. If you recall, one of the changes we made in the zoning ordinance last year was gas stations or drive-through uses adjacent to residential, which is the case here. Is the reason we have a CUP here require a conditional use permit. I would think that if it was a small office building or I'm trying to think of like a small retail building, that probably we would not have operational requirements.
Hey, Greg, I can jump in too a little bit. So Exhibit F of the PC packet is actually contains the list of permitted uses that are proposed with the rezone. It does mirror the Village Center, as you mentioned. And there are some uses that would require a CUP, but several others are permitted by right, such as small grooming and pet stores, veterinary clinics, banks and financial services. So there's a whole list of uses in there in Exhibit F.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Derek. It just, like I said, it just kind of worries me because we're all fixated on a coffee shop, and in reality, it could be anything on that list, principally approved. And it just, like I said, it's a tight site, but I think because a site plan would have to be part of the design review, it really kind of makes me feel a little bit more assured because the planning commission would still have a lot of authority. So if somebody came in with something, because that site plan has to be a part of that approval, it definitely makes me feel a lot better. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would just add too that the list is pretty narrow. There's probably only 10 or 12 different uses that are permitted by right. So it is a fairly narrow in scope.
All right, thank you, Derek.
Sure.
Anything else, Commissioner Krafka? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Martin, any questions for staff?
First, Kenny, thanks for the presentation. And the questions I had was about the U-turn, which Campruso had taken care of, Commissioner. So I don't have any questions, and I appreciate Commissioner Krafka's due diligence or additional questioning about the special overlay, which is a good comment to bring up. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Martin. And Vice Chair Jensen, any questions at this time?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing, and I'd like to invite the representative for this item to address the commission.
Chair Bashirs, I have Chad Roberts representing the applicant on the line. Chad, you can address the commission.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Chad Roberts on behalf of the applicant. First, just want to thank staff for all their work in getting this before you this evening. I don't have much to add to Kenny's report or Greg's and Mark's responses to questions. I did just want to highlight a few of the design features, though, that were mentioned. The 40-foot driveway, the right turn decel lane, the queuing capacity, the extra parking stalls. We're really confident that with these features, the proposed design is going to work, and it's going to work well. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you for your time, and we respectfully request you adopt the staff recommendations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. And I'll now ask my fellow commissioners if there are any questions for the applicant at this time. Commissioner Caparuso, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Commissioner Krafka, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Labrea, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Martin, any questions?
No questions.
And Commissioner Pryor, any questions for the applicant?
No questions.
All right, and Vice Chair Jensen, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will now open public comments. Public comment may be given via email at publiccomment@roseville.ca.us or by calling 916-774-5353. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to address the commission on this item. Greg, anyone from the public who would like to address the commission at this time?
Yes, we have one email, Chair Bashirs. It was an email from Matt Gray, and I will point out that this that he forwarded an email to the public comment line that he forwarded the email he had sent earlier in January that's included in attachment 1 of your packet. And this email was a comment on the mitigated negative declaration that was prepared. And in your staff report under the environmental analysis section, there's a staff response to the points that Mr. Gray brings up. So the email was a verbatim email. Oh, I think we just received one more email while we're waiting. Well, I guess by the time I'm done reading this, we'll know if we have any phone calls. From Haley Patterson. She indicates that she thinks the area would be a good place for a coffee shop due to there being a park and a school nearby. The only thing she thinks is an issue would be traffic at the intersection between the drive-through and the exit point out of the area. So those are the two email comments so far. So I'll see, I think Derek and Anna are handling the phone calls. So do we have any phone calls, Derek?
Not yet. We're maybe give it another minute.
Okay, we know we had one phone call, Chair, prior to item 6.1. Somebody called in wanting to ask for this, and they decided that they'd hang up and call back when we got to this item. So we'll give it a few more, another half a minute or so.
Oh, like I just heard a phone ring.
Yeah, Chair Beshears, this is Derek again. I think we have a speaker. Can you please state your name and address?
You do. Hi, my name is Audrey Ehrlich. My husband Charles is here, Chuck. We live on right across the street on Benton Loop, which backs right up to Pleasant Grove. We back up to this development. And I have a couple of questions I would like to ask.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. Listen, I need, number one, to find out when was this rezoned, or is it not rezoned yet?
Ms. Ehrlich, you can go ahead through your comments and address them to the Planning Commission, and then if the Planning Commission asks the staff to respond, we will.
Okay.
Derek.
Ms. Ehrlich, you may want to turn down the speaker on your TV as well.
Got it.
Why don't you go through your comments for the commission, and then at the end, if the commission wants us to respond, staff will do so. So why don't you go through all your questions?
Okay. I think it's important that you know there are people living on two of the four sides of this development, this plan. And we have been living, we are in a senior, I don't want an active adult community. And not that that matters any, but the fact that this was going to be rezoned from single family residential development to community commercial is appalling to a lot of us. There were a lot of people that did not get this notice, that didn't think was appropriate, that they had comments. But I am asking for us, we have no say in this. I know you probably have this all planned out, but my comment is, I think my husband, me, my neighbors, we really are appalled that this is going to be open from 7 o'clock in the morning to at least 10 o'clock at night. There looks like there's no protection, sound protection for us, because there won't be any trees. There won't be a wall like we have. And I would like you to know basically that you are hurting our community. That's number one. And I know I love progress that's happening in Roseville. I don't think this is the proper project for a tiny site like that with the neighborhood being residential. That is my comment. So my question is it too late to stop the rezoning?
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Anything else for the commission?
Well, yes. Does this mean that there will be one more hearing after you get more specific design information?
Okay. I think we've noted your comments.
Thank you. Derek, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ehrlich. And Craig, if we could go ahead and just kind of address, where we are, where we are in this process.
As far as the rezoning goes, tonight the Planning Commission is going to be making a recommendation to the City Council for the general plan amendment and the rezoning of the parcel, as well as the specific plan amendment and the development agreement amendment, the list of entitlements Kenny read out. So the Planning Commission's recommendation will ultimately go to the City Council for their action. So the City Council will take your recommendation and they will make a determination whether to approve the land use and zoning changes at a hearing. Because I don't want to ever predetermine what the City Council will do, if the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval tonight, and if the City Council approves it, when a final user does come back, we will be bringing it back because we know that the design of the building at least is a placeholder. Applicants don't have a final end user tenant, and so we've placed conditions on both the conditional use permit and the design review permit that any modifications are going to have to come back and go through that process. And so we do want to bring those items back to the commission because we know this is a sensitive corner and a sensitive site. So I think that's the rezoning hasn't occurred and won't occur until the City Council takes action on it, and then an ultimate project, if the land uses are all approved, will have to come back through a public hearing process with noticing.
Great. Thank you very much, Greg. Any more members of the public like to comment? Should we give it another phone calls in the queue?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't appear to be any other calls at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. I will now close the public comment, and at this time, I'll ask the applicant if they'd like to address any of the comments that we did hear from the public this evening. If we still have the applicant available.
I can get the applicant back. I can have the applicant back online if you'd like to.
I think you've sufficiently addressed the public comment by phone, so I don't know that the applicant would have much more to add. It just so at that point, I'll open it up to my commissioners to see if they have any additional final comments. Commissioner Kraft.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were going to do roll call. I thought it was a free for all.
Well, I figured I would, but coincidentally, I started with you. So
I do have a follow up. And first off, thank you for pointing me to this exhibit showing the uses. I somehow embarrassingly, I skipped right over this section. So a little embarrassed about that, but thank you for that. When looking through this list, it's hard to imagine most of these principally approved uses would ever really be able to fit in this irregular shaped lot. However, like I said, you never know. Sometimes things happen in 5 years from now that we're not really thinking about here. And we actually had an email a little similar to one of the questions that the caller just made, which was about noise. And so I know there's a noise ordinance, but this is zoned currently for single family residential. And I think the typical noise that comes out of somebody's backyard is going to could be a little different than what's going to come out of a community, commercial site, again, depending on what goes here. So Greg, can you maybe just talk to us real quickly? Is there a difference in the noise ordinance about what's allowed in a commercial site versus what comes off of a residential site? Or how exactly does that work? You're on mute, Greg.
Sorry. The noise ordinance applies to the sensitive receptor, right? So if you generate noise and the noise can travel to the property line of a sensitive receptor, it's that noise at that property line. So there are noise or acoustical consultants, noise consultants. They have models that they run, so they know what typical noise levels come from various types of land uses. And so I would think that there's, typically the noise generated from a residential site isn't isn't going to be as high as the noise generated from a commercial site, typically. So it's a case-by-case situation, Commissioner. So I would think that that's one reason we had the noise study done, to show that where any noise generated from a typical coffee kiosk like this, what those noise levels are at the various sensitive receptor property lines. The high-density residential immediately to the south, the single family across Pleasant Grove, the single family across Upland Drive. And so that's what the results of that noise study came out. I don't believe there was any noise impacts on the single family residential across Upland or across Pleasant Grove. But what it said is, any noise generated from the site will meet the noise standards of the general plan during the day from 7 a.m. through 10 p.m. because there's a higher noise standard. Once you hit 10 o'clock, our noise standards drop down several, I think 5 or 10 decibels. And so when you hit that time period of night, the noise generated would exceed it unless they built a 10-foot tall masonry wall. And so that's kind of how we ended up with the option of either restricting your hours of operation or building the wall. Ultimately, when a user is identified, not many true coffee shops open at 7 o'clock. They usually open earlier. So they'll have to come back and we'll have to go through this again, and it may necessitate a taller wall along that property line.
Okay.
So does that?
Yeah, it does. I think it explains, hopefully when people talk about noise and things like that, hopefully that explanation tries to, help people understand a little bit better that they're not allowed just to go out there and start making whatever kind of noise that they want, that there is a noise ordinance that even though it's commercial, they still have to abide by. But you hit on one, yeah.
Yeah, and insert, it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens occasionally where we'll have to go out and there's a complaint, and we'll have to go out and have additional studies performed, and operations have to change. It's a code. It's a municipal code requirement as well. So code enforcement can get involved if somebody's violating the noise standards.
Great, thank you, Greg. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Caparuso, any further discussion?
No further discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Martin, any further discussion?
No further discussions.
Okay, Commissioner Labrea, any further discussion?
I just wanted to say I appreciate the public comments that have been sent in, as well as the one call we received tonight and email that was resent tonight. I live nearby the Dutch Brothers on Sunrise, so I understand the concerns that can arise with this sort of project. But I do believe there are some benefits to having a project like this, especially in an area on the west side where I know a lot of community members have also been asking for more services or space for more amenities. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Commissioner Pryor, any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one quick question for staff. It's about public outreach and notifying local residents. Could you just go over that again for us, how they were contacted? I believe one of the residents who rang tonight and certainly had concerns that not enough residents were notified. Could you just give us a recap on how the notification process takes place?
Sure. So the legal notification process is we take a radius around the perimeter of the project site, a 300-foot radius, and we send mailers to all those folks. We also post a notice for the hearing in the Roseville Press Tribune. And then in this instant, and we also post our notices on the Arcona webpage as well. We've been using that for quite a while. Another way that's the legal. Well, the Arcona isn't a legal requirement, but we do it at the same time we fulfill our legal obligations. But in addition to the legal requirements, we also arranged to have this neighborhood association, and then the West Park Fitment Farms Neighborhood Association. They notify all of their anybody in their neighborhoods in this case when a project is presented at one of their board meetings. So that also occurred. That's the meeting that happened on January 12th.
Okay, and there will be public outreach before the council meeting?
That fourth bullet on the screen that was just up, the 300-foot radius notice, the Press Tribune, and posting the notice on the Arcona website will all occur before a city council hearing as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Vice Chair Jensen, any final discussion?
No discussion. I just have a couple of comments. I appreciate the phone call that we received from the resident regarding the potential impacts to the community. And when I look at a project, really the three things that are direct impacts are the use, what it's being rezoned to, the traffic, and the noise. And I think staff's done a great job. And with the clarifications from Commissioner Krafka, the use issue's been addressed and the traffic's been addressed. So it really comes down to noise. And I just want to comment, this is just a follow-up for Greg. When we look at noise impacts, usually the background traffic from the adjacent roadway is a big contributor of that. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Yes, that is correct. You can't look at noise in a, I guess this isn't the right analogy, in a vacuum. You have to look at the background, because obviously Pleasant Grove being a arterial roadway, that, you know, and Mark could chime in on what the capacity is now versus what the capacity will be as we continue to build out towards the west. It would be my guess that background noise level will increase over time. But yeah, obviously background noise is part of the calculation.
Thank you. Those were my comments.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Jensen. I just, you know, it's easy, not easy. As chair, you know, we can get very comfortable because my fellow commissioners have done such a great job with addressing many of my questions, concerns. And so, you know, I may not have additional questions or comments when it's my turn. And such is the case tonight. Everything that I was concerned with or had questions on was addressed. Greg, I appreciate you and staff addressing a lot of the comments, and I do want to thank the public. We had both positive and you know, for and against feedback, and I always appreciate when the public takes time to reach out and to contact us. I have no further discussion. I just want to say that we've made clear tonight that what we're actually doing is making a recommendation one way or the other on a rezone, but we're not deciding on a final project, and that will there are multiple steps before we get to that point. And so with that and the questions and comments that have been addressed tonight, I have nothing further to ask or to add. And so I would like to ask my fellow commissioners if anyone would like to make a motion at this time.
Chair Brashears, just a reminder,
Yes, I missed something.
I heard you close the public hearing.
Didn't I not do that already?
We thought he did. I thought
yeah. I'm sorry. I thought I did, and then we were at the final discussion from commissioners. I can certainly close the public hearing now.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I'll ask if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the West Roseville Specific Plan PCLW-20 for the Coffee Shack Mitigated Negative Declaration and the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program. Recommend the City Council approve the General Plan Amendment for Land Use Map. Recommend that the City Council approve the Specific Plan Amendment. Recommend the City Council adopt the two findings of fact and approve the rezone. Recommend the City Council approve the 9th Amendment of the Development Agreement between the City of Roseville and VC Roseville LLC. adopt the 3 findings of fact and approve the conditional use permit subject to 6 conditions of approval, and adopt the 4 findings of fact and approve the design review permit subject to the 74 conditions of approval for file number PL 20-0142, the 1875 Pleasant Grove Boulevard Coffee Shack.
I'll second.
Commissioner Martin has made the motion and Commissioner LaBrea has seconded the motion. Lupe, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice Chair Jensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Krafka,
Yes.
Commissioner Caparuso,
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBrea,
Yes.
and Chair Bashirs.
Yes. The motion is approved, and there is a 10-day appeal period for the conditional use permit and the design review permit for residential subdivision. Hope I got that right. There was a change.
Yeah, just a design review permit.
Okay. I had a note. Make sure I get that right. 10-day appeal period for the conditional use permit. Okay, so just for the design review permit?
Yep, the ones that the commission acted upon tonight, yes. Not the recommendation. You got it right.
Yep. Okay. I had a late note here for us. Audit. Okay, so that's, thank you. Next on the agenda, board member, commissioner, staff reports. Greg, any reports from staff tonight?
Yeah, I have a few items for you. First, belated Happy New Year to the Planning Commission. Since we haven't met since early December, it's been 2 months, I think. I just want to report out that the City Council in January took action on 2 items that the Planning Commission had acted on back in November and December: the Moyer Wealth Development Agreement and the Denio DF20 Property Development Agreement in the Sierra Vista Specific Plan. The Council approved both those items. And then last week on the 3rd, February 3rd, the Council approved the land use amendments and various entitlements for the JM40 project site in Sierra Vista. That was the one that was the mixed-use commercial site going to residential. And then we also shifted around some affordable housing with that project. So those were approved by City Council since your last meeting. I'll let you know that we are having meetings on February 25th and March 11th. It looks like probably March and April, you're going to start seeing some ordinance language as we're marching forward with some of the items necessary to implement our housing element plan. You won't see the housing element itself for a little while, but you'll see some ordinances, for instance, objective design standards, ADU, accessory dwelling units, and also density bonus ordinances. We're furiously working on those items. And then finally, I just want to mention to the commission that the council in January, I think January 20th was the last meeting that they used the public comment email to receive public comments. So that system is being shut down. So the public comments from now on will be via telephone only. Just so you're not surprised when you see the agenda come out next time, we will not have that email address on the agenda. Apparently, the City Council was having issues with having quite a few, not just items off topic, but out of the city's purview. So, and then also they were having a hard time with the content of certain emails, how to enter those into the record, where the content may not have been appropriate to read out into the record. So that service is going to be discontinued, and we'll rely on the phone system for public comment. I just want to let you know that, so you're not surprised in a couple weeks.
Hey, Greg, on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chair. Can I ask a question about that?
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. I mean, that might make sense for council because they're back in chambers, correct?
Yes.
So we're going to be taking away one of the options for public. So we're going to remain remote and only have the ability for people to call in?
The telephone calls, yes. Yes. I mean, folks can still email. We get plenty of emails. I forwarded out all the emails we had up until this afternoon. So there's still plenty of opportunity. It's just the live email coming in during the hearing and prior to the hearing. So we still, all of our notices have our staff emails. So there's, personally, I don't think it takes away the public's ability to contact us and to provide information, because any email they send to myself, Derek, or one of the project planners gets put into a memorandum and forwarded to you either hopefully prior to the hearing, or if we got something at the last minute, we would read it out, because we still consider that public comment. We want to make sure you have. It's just this particular email address is being discontinued.
Okay, thank you.
That live function, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Anything else?
Not for me tonight, I don't think, unless Derek thinks I missed something.
Keeping you honest. Okay. Anything else from my fellow commissioners?
Sorry, again, I got something. I was, it's been 18 months or so since we had a discussion, and I apologize to those of you who were around for it, because you might roll your eyes now, but discussions around the start time for Planning Commission, as well as some of the other commissions and councils that met. And at the time, just for some background, we had moved, I believe we were at 7 o'clock. Ultimately, we ended up going to 6 and then back to 6:30. For a number of reasons, but I was hoping with Chair Bashir's recommendation or support to bring the item before discussion for the commission at the next meeting in terms of our start time, and kind of revisiting that, given the fact that we've been remote for a year now and not with really much of an end in sight, unless Greg knows something I don't know.
I do not know anything you do not know on that topic.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, we can talk about it if we re-agendize it, but that I would just ask that we do that.
Yeah.
I'm
that on
open
the
to
next
that.
agenda. Yeah, we can put that on the next agenda. If it's your what you all want to do. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's worth a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else from fellow commissioners? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Martin has made the motion, and Commissioner Caparuso has seconded the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you all very much. It was wonderful to see you all. It's been too long, and I hope you have a wonderful evening and a nice long weekend. We are adjourned.
Yeah, have a good
Thank you, Commission. We appreciate it.